Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. We have another great show for you before we head into the Christmas holiday. First, new information regarding the number of police contacts at the Reiner residence and much more. Charges dismissed against a Wisconsin professor in a fatal fire involving a pregnant woman. Someone must have left early for the Christmas holiday at the DA's office. Another reason to fear doctors, a fatal stabbing at a Palm Beach Gardens bookstore, claims the life of a 65-year-old woman. Let me guess. You think the guy's crazy that did it? We've got This Day in Legal History, our legal quote of the day, and our dumb criminal. Let's talk about it.
All right, lawyer.
Good day, everyone. My name is Scott Reich, and this is Crime Talk. Thanks for joining us. You know the drill. Subscribe if you haven't, like if you do, leave me a comment below, and hit that little bell for notifications so that you receive notice of any time that we go live or put up new content. And yes, you can check us out on any of your favorite podcasting apps. It is Christmas Eve, so Merry Christmas Eve to everyone. Merry Christmas to everyone tomorrow. We'll have a video that goes up actually tomorrow. I think it's quite good, and I hope you enjoy it. It's our little Christmas gift to you all. We want to thank everyone who has watched over the years, maybe even just recently joined us. We appreciate it. This is fun. We enjoy doing it, but it wouldn't be possible if it wasn't for you all. So thank you all very, very much. All right, let's go ahead and open the docket today. And first on the record for December 24th, 2025, let's talk about the number of contacts at the Reiner house over the years. So Los Angeles authorities have disclosed records indicating multiple police visits to the Brentwood residence of filmmaker Rob Reiner and his wife, Michelle Singer Reiner, over more than a decade prior to their fatal stabbing on December 14th of 2025. So the official Los Angeles Police Department logs indicate at least 6 documented calls for service to the couple's multi-million-dollar property between 2013 and 2019, in addition to the emergency response on the day their bodies were discovered. Now, these incidents encompassed welfare checks, mental health evaluations, and reports of potential domestic disturbances. A law enforcement source familiar with the matter has noted that the frequency of response to the address was noteworthy for the affluent and typically tranquil Brentwood neighborhood. The source emphasized that officers from the West Los Angeles Division had attended the home on several occasions, suggesting ongoing concerns within the household. Nick Reiner, the 32-year-old son of the couple, resided intermittently in a guest house on the property, according to individuals close to the family. He has since been charged with the 2 counts of first-degree murder, including special circumstances for multiple victims and the alleged use of a knife, which is classified as a deadly weapon. If convicted, he obviously faces the possibility of life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, and even the death penalty, although that's highly unlikely. Now, the Los Angeles County Medical Examiner confirmed that both Rob Reiner, 78, and Michelle Reiner, age 70, died from multiple sharp force injuries inflicted by another person, ruling the deaths as homicides. Their remains were subsequently cremated. Specific prior incidents include a 2017 response classified as an investigation into alleged family violence, for which a formal report was filed. Additional calls involved mental health assessments back in 2019 and a welfare check in earlier years. One 2014 visit addressed a noise complaint that resolved without further action. Now, Nick Reiner appeared in court on December 17th wearing his little protective attire and agreed to postpone his arraignment until January 7th of 2026. He's currently detained without bail. His attorney has urged restraint in public judgment pending full proceedings, and the case continues to develop as investigators are, looking into the circumstances surrounding the deaths. Now, what do we know? Well, we do know that death certificates were provided, and it provides a little more detail into the murders of Rob and Michelle Reiner. So the death certificates for Rob Reiner and his wife have confirmed additional specifics regarding their deaths, which occurred on December 14th of this year. Now, these documents issued by the Los Angeles County Department of Public Health state that both individuals succumbed to multiple sharp force injuries inflicted with a knife by another person. The certificates further indicate that the couple died within minutes of sustaining these injuries and that their remains were subsequently cremated at the Mount Sinai mortuary. The ashes were released to their eldest son, Jake Reiner. Now, Rob Reiner and his wife were discovered in the master bedroom of the home on the afternoon of December 14th. Police pronounced Rob deceased at approximately 3:45 p.m. and Michelle at 3:46 p.m. Both deaths have been officially classified as homicides. And obviously, Nick Reiner, their son, is the one that has been charged. There's been several reports that indicate that Nick Reiner had a history of mental health challenges, including treatment potentially for schizophrenia, not to mention struggles with substance abuse prior to the incident. Some sources close to the case have noted tension at a holiday gathering attended by the family the night before their deaths. Now, in a statement released by the siblings, Jake and Romy Reiner, the family expressed profound grief. Words cannot even begin to describe the unimaginable pain that we are experiencing every moment of the day. Now, the horrific and devastating loss of our parents, Rob and Michelle Reiner, is something that no one should ever experience. They weren't just our parents. They were our best friends. Now, the siblings requested privacy and urged compassion amid public speculation, emphasizing remembrance of their parents' lives and legacy. So there's also some resurfaced podcast confessions that highlight Nick Reiner's long battle with addiction. So in the light of the recent charges against Nick Reiner for the murder of his parents, interviews from the addiction recovery podcast called Dopey have resurfaced, and they're offering a little bit of a poignant glimpse into his personal struggles. Now, during multiple appearances on Dopey, hosted by Dave Mannheim, Reiner spoke candidly about his experience with substance abuse beginning in his teenage years and said, quote, "I started experimenting around age 14, end quote. And he recounted in one episode, quote, "I brought Xanax and Percocet to a party because, well, that was what I was using at the time. When my parents discovered it, they sent me to my first rehabilitation program," end quote. Now, Reiner described how his addiction escalated quite rapidly. By 18, he had tried heroin, LSD, cocaine, and cannabis. And he detailed sharing a room in rehab with a heroin user who extolled the drug's effects, leading him to experiment with it in later years. In another admission, he revealed smoking crack cocaine at age 15 during an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting in Atlanta. Periods of homelessness followed as he resisted treatment surrounded by individuals who, in his words, quote, "would stop at nothing," end quote, to obtain drugs, which he says desensitized him to the associated dangers. One particularly vivid account involved a destructive episode in 2017 while staying with his parents' guest house. He said, quote, "I completely lost control of stimulants. Probably cocaine mixed with something else," end quote. He said, quote, "I stayed awake for days and began smashing things, the television first, then furniture, and other items until much of the guest house was damaged," end quote. This incident, he noted, resulted in his parents asking him to leave the property. Reiner also reflected on manipulative behavior during treatment. To obtain medications, he once intentionally acted out, saying, quote, "I threw a rock through a large window at a facility so staff would see me as unstable and prescribe me what I wanted," end quote. Despite these challenges, he acknowledged moments of familial support. And during a difficult psychedelic experience, he said, "My father stayed with me for hours, taking me through it calmly." He recalled highlighting the persistent care from his parents and ongoing difficulties. Reiner discussed attending numerous rehabilitation facilities, including a wilderness program in Utah, and co-writing the 2015 semi-autographical film Being Charlie with his father, which explored themes of addiction within a family resembling their own. It's kind of a disturbing, dark movie, but I think it's worth watching. All I did was speak into my remote control and it pulled it up, but I think it charged me $2.99. But it's you can see, particularly if you've ever dealt with people with addiction. So it was so predictable, and the lack of success, so predictable. You can send people off to classes all they want, but unless and until somebody's ready to truly change, then they're not going to. But if you've got underlying mental health issues, unless you're going to get the help there as well, you're still going to want to do something to self-medicate. Anyway, these revelations originally shared to promote awareness of recovery. They underscore the profound impact on adolescent substance use on brain development and behavior, as noted by experts on the discussion of addiction. Now, Reiner's father had publicly stated earlier this year that his son had maintained sobriety for over 6 years. Now, the podcast episode provides a raw, personal perspective on a life marked by turmoil, now juxtaposed against the grave allegations following the discovery of his parents' bodies in their Los Angeles home on December 14th. This is a tragedy all around. There are no winners. There's no losers. Justice will never be done. And it certainly probably wouldn't be done for the Reiners. I just couldn't imagine that they would want their son thrown in prison for the rest of their lives, even though that's what the law may require. It's going to be a very interesting case to follow. And obviously, we'll bring you all of the new information as it comes about. Next, charges were dismissed against a Wisconsin professor in a fatal fire involving his pregnant girlfriend. That's right. The prosecutors must have left early for the Christmas vacation. So let's go to La Crosse County, Wisconsin, where a judge has dismissed criminal charges against a guy by the name of Matthew R. Sierra, a 38-year-old mechanical design instructor who was accused of killing a pregnant woman and who he shared his extramarital relationship and subsequently ignited her house on fire to conceal the crime. The dismissal occurred during a court hearing yesterday due to insufficient details in the initial complaint regarding the cause of death and the origin of the fire. Now, prosecutors have been granted 72 hours to refile amended charges. Now, Sierra from Genoa, Wisconsin, faced allegations of first-degree intentional homicide for the death of 27-year-old Alexa Pickett, who first-degree intentional homicide of an unborn child as well, arson of a building without the owner's consent, and mistreatment of animals causing death. Now, Pickett and her dog were discovered deceased following a house fire on November 13th of this year. And an autopsy confirmed that Pickett, who was pregnant, died prior to the fire's outbreak, as evidenced by the absence of soot in her lungs and low carbon monoxide levels in her blood. The medical examiner ruled her death homicide. Well, and there's surveillance footage and cellular data reportedly placed Sierra at Pickett's home during the relevant time frame, and with video showing him arriving around 12:45 a.m. and departing approximately 2 hours later, coinciding with the activation of smoke alarms. Now, according to the court records, Sierra and Pickett shared a 2-year-old son and had maintained an intermittent romantic relationship. A friend of Pickett informed investigators that Sierra expressed opposition to the pregnancy and allegedly pressured her to terminate it, threatening to seek full custody of their child if she declined. The couple's son was staying with a friend on the night of the incident. Now, Sierra admitted to the affair during the police interviews, and his wife acknowledged awareness of the relationship and the shared child, but denied knowledge of the subsequent pregnancy. Following his arrest on December 16th, his bond was set at $1 million cash only, hence the reason why he's in custody. He was placed on administrative leave from the Western Technical College as well. Now, a bond review and potential initial appearance on refiled charges are scheduled for December 26th, so the day after Christmas. Merry Christmas. Anyway, police continue to await final reports from the fire investigators and pathologists. The investigation involved collaboration among local fire, police departments, and other state agencies. Sierra obviously is presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Next on the docket, another reason why you should fear doctors. Okay, I know doctors. We all go to doctors. Do I like doctors? No. They always want to test something. I don't like doctors. Now, I trust my doctor. I'm not sure I trust this guy, who's a prominent plastic surgeon in Sugar Land, Texas, and he faces criminal charges after he allegedly performed a procedure on a patient while impaired by intoxicants, raising significant concerns about patient safety in his medical practice. You think? Please meet Dr. Azul Sharzali Jaffer, He was indicted by a Fort Bend County grand jury on December 15th on a state jail felony charge of performing surgery while intoxicated. Police allege that the incident occurred on August 12th of this year during a procedure at his private office. The indictment states that Dr. Jaffer lacked the normal use of his mental or physical faculties due to the introduction of alcohol, a controlled substance, drug, dangerous drug, or a combination thereof, thereby placing the patient at substantial and unjustifiable risk of harm. Following the indictment, Sugar Land police arrested Dr. Jaffer on December 22nd, and he was booked into the Fort Bend County Jail. As of the latest reports, bond has not been set, and he remained in custody pending an initial court appearance. Now, Dr. Jaffer is a double board certified plastic surgeon who founded the Azul Plastic Surgery in 2009. And with over 2 decades of experience, he has maintained affiliations with several local hospitals, including Houston's Methodist Sugar Land Hospital, which has since suspended his privileges in response to the investigation. The Texas Medical Board currently lists his license as active with no prior disciplinary actions noted. Police also indicated that no additional similar cases involving Dr. Jaffer are under investigation at this time, and limited details about the specific procedure or the patient's conditions have been released. Anyway, this incident obviously raises issues regarding professional conduct in any profession, but potentially eroding public trust in, medical providers. We entrust, selves to surgeons with their with their lives. Now, obviously, patients entrust surgeons with their lives during procedures, making allegations of impairment a little bit alarming. Wouldn't you agree? Anyway, Dr. Jaffer is scheduled for further court proceedings where additional information may emerge. Next, a fatal stabbing at the Palm Beach Gardens bookstore claims the life of a 65-year-old woman. That's right. Police have confirmed that a 65-year-old woman had succumbed to injuries sustained in a stabbing at a Barnes & Noble bookstore on December 22nd. The attack occurred shortly before 8 p.m. at the store located at 11380 Legacy Avenue in the Legacy Place Shopping Center. Now, the Palm Beach Gardens Police Department officers arrived at the scene following reports of a stabbing and discovered the victim, identified as Rita B. Launtrich, suffering from severe wounds. EMT provided immediate medical assistance and transported her to a nearby hospital where she was later pronounced deceased. According to police reports, witnesses observed the assailant approach Ms. Launtrich, inflict the stab wound, and flee the premises on foot. Investigators swiftly identified and apprehended 40-year-old Antonio R. Moore. He was nearby, and Moore has since been charged with first-degree premeditated murder, as is currently detained without bond in the Palm Beach County Jail. Now, updates from law enforcement indicate that Moore confessed to the act, stating there was no prior interaction with the victim and describing the incident as stemming from a sudden impulsive reaction. He reportedly used a fixed blade knife concealed in his jacket and escaped into the adjacent woods area before his arrest. The investigation is ongoing with no established motive yet whatsoever, other than, impulsiveness. Anyway, Launtrich's husband reported that she contacted him via telephone immediately following the attack to inform him of the stabbing. Now, additional details from family sources and pending officials suggest the suspect may have been experiencing homelessness and had recently arrived in Florida. Community members obviously expressed profound shock and concern in regards to this event, and the patrons described the occurrence as deeply disturbing. Obviously, unease about safety in everyday public spaces these days. Anyway, Barnes & Noble has declined to provide comment on the situation, citing the active nature of the investigation. Scary, ladies and gentlemen. We'll watch that story, and I guess, take a look at this picture. You think there's going to be an issue of competency, perhaps? Well, one of the things why people go to prison oftentimes is their inability to control impulses. And if you have an impulse to stab a 65-year-old woman as she's enjoying the books at Barnes & Noble, well, some people could say, even at Christmas, you're not really permitted to stay amongst us, that you need to be locked away. Next on the docket, this day in legal history. On December 24th, 1851, there was a devastating fire at the U.S. Capitol building, and it burned a large portion of the Library of Congress, including many legal volumes and records, prompting major rebuilding and a new fireproofing standards for the nation's primary legislative and legal research library. On this date, 1865, a group of Confederate veterans formed the original KKK in Pulaski, Tennessee on Christmas Eve. The Klan's campaign of racial terror during Reconstruction led directly to landmark federal responses, including the Enforcement Acts and the KKK Act of 1871, which expanded federal power to prosecute civil rights violations. Now, I can actually say that I have represented people that were charged under the KKK Act, and we won. And I should say, because they did nothing wrong. The judge threw it out and said the plaintiffs hadn't proven their case because there's a civil remedy under that act. Next, on this date in 1906, the United States v. Shipp case was decided. The Supreme Court issued a decision holding that it had the power to punish Sheriff Joseph Shipp and others for contempt after they effectively aided the lynching of a gentleman by the name of Ed Johnson while a federal stay was in place. The case established that the Supreme Court can enforce its own orders in contempt and remains the only criminal trial ever conducted by the United States Supreme Court. On December 24th, 1992, President George H.W. Bush granted presidential pardons to 6 officials implicated in the Iran-Contra affair, including former Defense Secretary Caspar Weinberger. That move effectively ended prosecution pursued by the independent counsel Lawrence Walsh and remains a major modern example in the debates over the scope and use of presidential clemency. The power is given in the Constitution, and the president can pardon anyone he wants, and he doesn't have to give an excuse. All presidents have done it. I'm sure all presidents in the future will do it as well. Next, our legal quote of the day has to do with Christmas and why some people take all the fun out of Christmas. So a legal quote regarding Christmas appears in the United States Supreme Court decision in Allegheny versus American Civil Liberties Union, the Greater Pittsburgh chapter. And this was decided in 1989. And the quote was authored by Justice Harry Blackmun. Quote, in sum, Lynch teaches that government may celebrate Christmas in some manner and form, but not in a way that endorses Christian doctrine, end quote. Now, this statement summarizes the court's analysis under the Establishment Clause of the First Amendment in the context of public holiday displays, distinguishing permissible secular acknowledgments of the holiday for impermissible endorsements of religious beliefs. The ruling emphasized that while government recognition of Christmas as a cultural event is constitutionally acceptable, displays conveying explicit religious endorsements may violate constitutional principles. Now, obviously, the founders rejected a state religion to safeguard liberty, yet they affirmed that religious and moral foundations, often rooted in Judeo-Christian values, were vital to the nation's enduring success. Anyway, this balanced approach has enabled diverse religious expressions while maintaining government neutrality. And finally, our dumb criminal of the day. Take a look at this video. In what might be the most entertainingly ill-advised display of holiday cheer since eggnog was invented, Maria Bucci, a 51-year-old former Cranston mayoral hopeful and current chair of the city's Democratic Committee, transformed a routine traffic stop into a one-woman comedy of errors, complete with name-dropping, family threats, and a scathing review of law enforcement careers. Now, body cam footage reveals that Bucci pulled over after midnight on December 18th for erratically navigating division streets following a Christmas party where she insists she enjoyed merely one glass of wine, repeatedly inquired of the patient East Greenwich officer, "You know who I am, right?"
What did you
I
say?
am, right?
I don't know who you are, miss. And I frankly,
You don't care,
no,
right?
I really don't. Frankly, I don't.
And
Alas, the officer appeared unimpressed by her political resume, which includes an unsuccessful 2020 bid for the Cranston mayor, a narrow 2024 loss for state representative, and a prior stint in the city council. Instead, he proceeded with field sobriety tests amid a barrage of commentary from Bucci, who accused him of public humiliation, suggesting racial bias in policing moments before her own arrest, and urged her cousin to summon my husband, the attorney general, and everybody else in town. As handcuffs emerged, Bucci's critique sharpened. She branded the officer with unflattering epithets and expressed profound disdain. The performance continued en route to the station, where she reportedly chuckled while confiding that she had warned her children against police work on pain of maternal retribution, adding, quote, "only clowns become cops," end quote. She allegedly capped the evening with a promise of future reckoning. Charged with her first offense, DUI, blood alcohol level undetermined, and she declined a breath test, plus assorted traffic violations, Bucci was released on a personal recognizance bond and due in court on January 5th. Now, efforts to obtain her comment proved as fruitful as her sobriety tests. In a season dedicated to peace on earth and goodwill towards officers, Bucci's roadside sequelae serves as a reminder. Perhaps the real clown car was the one swerving all along. Somehow I think her political future has been dashed. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's all we have for today. Once again, thank you for joining us. Merry Christmas, and we will see you next week. And remember, the Constitution matters.